The world shifted on a Tuesday. It was an ordinary day, or so it seemed. The kind of day that starts with the usual routines, the familiar sounds of the alarm clock and the soft light of dawn creeping through the curtains. Not all at once, of course. The change was subtle, almost imperceptible at first. It was like a gentle breeze that barely rustles the leaves, a whisper that you can almost ignore. It wasn't some dramatic, cinematic event where the earth rumbled and the sky turned a foreboding shade of purple. No, it was much quieter than that, much more insidious. It was the kind of change that creeps up on you, slowly, until one day you realize everything is different. No, it was much quieter than that, much more insidious. It started with a crackle, a whisper, a subtle shift in the air pressure that I couldn't quite place. It was as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. It started with a crackle, a whisper, a subtle shift in the air pressure that I couldn't quite place. Little did I know, this almost imperceptible change was the harbinger of a storm that would rearrange the landscape of my life forever. Little did I know, this almost imperceptible change was the harbinger of a storm that would rearrange the landscape of my life forever. I can still remember the mundane details of that morning, the way the sun slanted through my bedroom window, the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen. It was a day like any other, or so I thought. I can still remember the mundane details of that morning, the way the sun slanted through my bedroom window, the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen. It was a day like any other, or so I thought. I went through my usual routine, a quick jog, a hurried breakfast, the familiar commute. It was a day like any other, or so I thought. I went through my usual routine, a quick jog, a hurried breakfast, the familiar commute. Life was a rhythm, a predictable melody that played on repeat. I went through my usual routine, a quick jog, a hurried breakfast, the familiar commute. Life was a rhythm, a predictable melody that played on repeat. But beneath the surface, a discordant note had been struck, a subtle vibration that hinted at the chaos to come. Life was a rhythm, a predictable melody that played on repeat. But beneath the surface, a discordant note had been struck, a subtle vibration that hinted at the chaos to come. It was as if the universe was trying to tell me something, to warn me of the impending storm. But beneath the surface, a discordant note had been struck, a subtle vibration that hinted at the chaos to come. It was as if the universe was trying to tell me something, to warn me of the impending storm. And yet I continued on, oblivious to the signs, unaware of the seismic shift that was about to turn my world upside down. Life before that Tuesday was a study in routine. Each day unfolded like a well-rehearsed script, predictable and comforting in its familiarity. I was a creature of habit, finding comfort in the predictability of my days. The morning light would filter through my curtains, casting a warm glow that signaled the start of another day. Every morning started the same way, the insistent buzzing of my alarm clock, a quick shower, and the familiar scent of coffee brewing in the kitchen. A bowl of oatmeal while I skimmed the headlines became a ritual, a moment of stillness before the day truly began. The world outside might be chaotic, but my mornings were a sanctuary of calm. My work as a graphic designer was demanding but fulfilling. Each project was a puzzle, a challenge that required creativity and precision. I found satisfaction in the meticulous process of transforming ideas into tangible designs. The hours would fly by as I lost myself in my work, the outside world fading away. Evenings were spent in quiet solitude. I'd cook dinner, maybe read a book, and let the day's stresses melt away. The simple act of preparing a meal was therapeutic, a way to unwind. I'd catch up with a friend or two over text, sharing snippets of our lives and staying connected in our own way. It was a small but meaningful part of my routine. I was content in my own company, a self-proclaimed introvert who savored peaceful evenings. The quiet moments were my refuge, a time to reflect and recharge. Weekends were for exploring the city, wandering through its streets and discovering hidden gems. Each corner held a new adventure, a story waiting to be told. Getting lost in art museums was a favorite pastime. The silence of the galleries, the beauty of the exhibits, it was a world where time seemed to stand still, or simply enjoying the quiet hum of a local coffee shop where I could sit for hours lost in thought or immersed in a good book. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee was a comfort in itself. My life wasn't flashy or exciting, but it was mine. It was a tapestry of small, meaningful moments that brought me joy and contentment. It was comfortable, familiar, safe, a cocoon of routine that shielded me from the uncertainties of the world. And deep down, I think a part of me believed it would always stay that way. But life has a way of surprising us, of shaking up our carefully laid plans and pushing us into the unknown. Looking back, there were signs, whispers of change I was too oblivious to notice. I'd find myself staring out the window at work, a strange restlessness stirring within me. The routine that once brought comfort now felt stifling, the familiar melody now a monotonous drone. I craved something more, something I couldn't quite define. My dreams became more vivid, filled with strange landscapes and unfamiliar faces. I'd wake up with a jolt, my heart pounding, a lingering sense of unease clinging to me like morning mist. I brushed it off as stress, the byproduct of long hours and deadlines. I was too caught up in the rhythm of my life to see the cracks appearing in the pavement, too focused on the present to anticipate the earthquake that was about to shake my world. It happened at dusk. The sky was awash in hues of orange and purple, a breathtaking display of color that did little to soothe the growing unease in my stomach. The phone rang, shattering the fragile peace of the evening. It was my brother, his voice tight with emotion. "There's been an accident," he said, the words catching in his throat. "Mom and Dad, they were driving home from their trip." The rest of his words dissolved into a meaningless blur. The world around me seemed to tilt on its axis. The carefully constructed walls I'd built around myself crumbled, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. Time lost all meaning as a tidal wave of grief washed over me, leaving me gasping for air in its wake. Section 5. The ground opened up. The ground opened up, swallowing me whole. In that moment, the world I knew ceased to exist. My parents, the two constants in my life, were gone. The thought was an unbearable weight, a leaden cloak that threatened to suffocate me. The funeral was a blur of tear-stained faces and hushed whispers. I moved through the motions mechanically, my body a hollow shell going through the motions. Anger, a raw, visceral thing, clawed at my insides. Why them? Why now? There were no answers, only the deafening silence left in their absence. The world continued to spin, oblivious to the gaping hole ripped through my universe. Section 6. Picking up the pieces. The days that followed were a blur. I moved through life in a daze, the world a muffled echo around me. Friends and family tried to offer comfort, their words bouncing off the impenetrable wall of grief I'd erected around myself. The thought of returning to my old life, to the routines that now felt so meaningless, was unbearable. My work sat untouched on my desk, a tangible reminder of a life that no longer felt like my own. Sleep offered little solace, my nights haunted by memories and what-ifs. I was adrift in a sea of grief, clinging desperately to the wreckage of my former life. The pain was a constant companion, a dull ache that intensified without warning. Section 7. Rebuilding, brick by brick. Healing, I soon learned, is not a linear process. It's a journey with many twists and turns, often taking you back before you can move forward. It's messy and unpredictable, filled with setbacks and false starts. There are moments when you feel like you're making progress, only to be pulled back into the depths of despair. There were days when the weight of grief threatened to crush me, when the darkness seemed impenetrable, and hope felt like a distant memory. Days when even getting out of bed felt like an insurmountable task. The simple act of facing the day seemed overwhelming, and the comfort of the bed was the only refuge. But slowly, painstakingly, I started to rebuild. Each small step forward was a victory, each piece of the broken puzzle a testament to my resilience. I sought solace in unexpected places, in the quiet moments of reflection, in the beauty of nature, and in the gentle whispers of the wind. In the quiet support group, where shared stories and mutual understanding provided a sense of belonging and comfort. In the pages of books where I found wisdom and solace, and the words of others who had walked similar paths. In the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other. I started running again, feeling the wind against my face and the ground beneath my feet. The rhythmic pounding of my feet against the pavement became a release for the pent-up emotions that threatened to consume me. Each step was a reminder of my strength and determination. I poured my grief into my art, allowing my emotions to flow through the brushstrokes and onto the canvas. My pain transforming into vibrant colors and abstract shapes, each piece a reflection of my journey and my healing. It wasn't about forgetting, I realized, but about integrating my grief into my life. It became a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I learned to carry the weight of my grief with grace, allowing it to shape me, but not control me. Each day I grew stronger, more resilient, and more at peace with my journey. Section 8, Scars and Stars. The world shifted on a Tuesday, and nothing would ever be the same. The pain of losing my parents never fully went away, but it softened, morphing into a bittersweet ache that resided deep within me. The experience left me irrevocably changed, but not broken. I emerged from the wreckage, scarred but not defeated. I learned to embrace vulnerability, to find strength in the face of adversity. I discovered a depth of resilience I never knew I possessed. A fierce determination to honor my parents' memory by living a life filled with purpose and passion. The experience taught me to appreciate the fragility of life, to cherish the moments, and to never take a single sunrise for granted. Section 9, The sun always rises. The world shifted on a Tuesday, and in the process, it shifted me too. It shattered me, reshaped me, and ultimately made me whole. It was a journey of profound loss and unimaginable pain, but also one of incredible growth and unexpected beauty. I learned that even in the darkest of times, even when the world seems to be falling apart, there is always hope. There is always light. And like the sun, we too have the capacity to rise again, stronger and more resilient than before. The day that changed my life forever was a tragedy, yes, but it was also a catalyst. It forced me to confront my fears, to embrace my vulnerability, and to ultimately discover the true meaning of strength and resilience. And for that, I am eternally grateful.